I have met very few people who have obsessed so much over something as I did with sound design. Whenever I see someone else's game project made with GameMaker, my smile drops and I ask them, "Hey, but what about the sounds?" People often say that sounds aren't that important, which makes me wince in frustration. Sounds are important and audio plays a huge part in selling the illusion of an atmosphere. I love recording, synthesizing sounds and making music. To this point, Svendbar only had a couple of calm soundtracks and I felt like time has come for Svendbar to get some spicy sound effects. In the current version, that being 0.14, you can hear some really subtle jetpack noises whenever the player moves, and pressing buttons of any kind also plays juicy sound effects. Buttons. Buttons. Clicky buttons. I was playing a simple game called Spaceplane the other day, and the sound design in said game was pure cocaine for my ears. I couldn't stop clicking buttons just because of the well done sound design. This is also a game that inspired me to make Svendbar in the first place, and I can't express how much it has influenced my sound design decisions up to this point. Level design. I finally got more feedback for Svendbar. I have let a friend of mine test the shit out of Svendbar and I actually got a bunch of useful information from it, including that some levels were broken as hell. As well as fixing game-breaking bugs, I redesigned and extended some levels to introduce players to new mechanics in better and less confusing ways. If you want to find out more about the way I like to approach level design, take a look at a video called Half-Life's Invisible Tutorial. After playtesting Svendbar myself for a while, I felt like Svendbar's in need of more stuff, more complexity, so I added 2 new puzzle mechanics and their respective sound effects. Cloud deployers, which shoot out energy clouds once activated, and toggleable panels. These panels reflect energy clouds and they are present in the 5 new levels I carefully crafted. Svendbar now has 20 levels and a playtime of roughly 30 minutes. Speaking of energy clouds, simplifying the way energy clouds work also did help a lot in making the gameplay mechanics less confusing. Instead of moving only when the player moves, which was way too complicated for a gameplay mechanic this early in the game, the energy cloud now never stops moving. Graphics. I redesigned the player sprite once again because I wasn't happy with the previous look of the player. I'm not trying to say that I'm completely happy with the new design, just that it's way better than before. Those deadly motorized fans also got a small rework. I added the base sprite and adjusted the wings slightly. The core sprite needed more detail as well, so I added some where it was necessary. Speaking of detail, the cloud and its particles actually have less of it now, because I wasn't happy with the look of it and the sprite is now a simple placeholder again. Do you remember that ugly, blurry, not very crisp text the game displayed upon hovering over the core? I was testing some font settings and I accidentally realized that I have been using this horribly blurry setting for all this time. Ew! I added some small things like subtle camera rotation whenever the player moves, and I reworked my own particle system in order to reduce lags and so I can have position-based turbulence. In other words, this means I can modify particles easier than ever before and create an illusion of air circulation whenever the player flies by some particles. Just look at this, isn't this lovely? The biggest graphics related change I made is the background of the game. In the previous versions of Svendbar, there weren't any background tiles at all. Just like with many other changes I have made, I didn't think that a simple background would make such a large impact on the looks of the game. Remember those dank core collision physics I introduced in a previous episode? Yep, that was broken as hell. Instead of trying to make the physics work in some poorly botched way, I completely removed that feature, as it isn't necessary to have useless things like physics toys in such an early stage of game development. Speaking of cores and their interaction with their surroundings, cores are now affected by gravity fields and they fall down when touching them. In contrast to the broken collision feature I just mentioned, this one is actually quite useful. Because first, it's completely logical to have every physics object affected by the gravity fields, and second, it allows me to create some cool and complex puzzle mechanics using this feature. I have already mentioned the game's terrible performance in the 4th episode of this series, and I have to confess that this is still a huge problem. I have tried reducing countless lag-inducing factors, and after testing my game for countless times, I realized that one thing in particular was causing huge drops in performance. These lightning bolts may look pretty, but the code I wrote for it runs terribly slow. Instead of trying to squeeze out some small improvements in terms of FPS, I just completely scrapped the useless feature for better performance. Well, that's it for this version. I already worked on the next version for many weeks, but I procrastinated a lot when it came to writing this script. Svendbar's development was a huge adventure to this point, probably a better one than the game itself. I will keep working on this game, adding gameplay and content, redesigning everything in the process. And I hope you've liked it so far. My name is Wangle and I like to make games. See ya.